Okay, welcome back. It's been a few days since it's been 10 days since my last video, so we will be posting a little more regularly. That is the game plan. It has been a little less than a week since the one-woman show that I wrote, produced, and performed closed. This this run, I have a feeling that it will continue on, and we're in the works of having some performances out of town, which is really exciting. And once you create something, it lives on. It was really such a healing and expansive experience to put up the show. It's called Dream Roll, and it really is an experience. My taglines are when people said, "What was it about?" I said, "It's about the stories we tell and the roles that we play. It's about living your purpose, forgiving your F ups, and reclaiming your ability to write your own story." But really, it was a whole experience. And people asked about what inspired me to write this show. When I sat down to write, I did not say initially, I'm writing a one-woman show. I think it became that. I had been introduced to a gentleman named Hendricks. He wrote a book called Conscious Luck, and I love this book. It's about how luck is a mindset, and you can cultivate your sense of good fortune or luck. And people that feel lucky tend to have luckier experiences. Luck is mindset, and you can cultivate that, is the essence of the book. And I love that. Feeling like a lucky person is an identity that I really love. And there's a lot of power in identity. I could do a whole video on identity. Hey, note to self, maybe I'll do a video on identity in the future. And so I had listened to this book, Conscious Luck. I loved it. And I said, what else has this guy written? He's written a number of different books, and he wrote a book called Your Big Leap Year. And so there's a short little audio every day and different exercises. And so he talks about living in your genius. The zones of genius, that is a more common concept. People are aware of that. If you're not aware of the zones of genius, you can Google it. So there's your zone of incompetence, your zone of competence, your zone of excellence, and then your zone of genius. And a lot of people get stuck in the zone of excellence because they might be good at it, they might be making money in their zone of excellence, and but it's a little bit more comfortable than taking your big leap, hence the name of the book, Your Big Leap, into living in your genius. So I made a commitment to myself to sit down and write for 20 minutes every morning. I normally meditate in the morning, have some morning rituals. Meditation is one of them. Meditate every day when I wake up, and then I would work out. But I chose to do an activity in my genius zone for 20 minutes before I would work out. So I chose writing, or if I had an audition, I would work on that. So writing, reading a script, or studying a script, working on my acting. So I sat down to write for 20 minutes every day, and then this one-woman show came out of that practice. And I put this in the program as well. It was just a simple yet radical act of honoring my creativity and living in my genius. And it's really interesting how the show evolved, how I wrote, and then I had this chunk of something. And I had never done the Hollywood Fringe. So I said, oh, I'm going to do the Fringe Festival. The Fringe Festival is a big theater festival. There's a lot of one person shows or new works, or it's anything from something that's very polished to something that people are still workshopping and putting together. So I said, oh, I'm going to do the Fringe. And people have said to me, I can't believe you don't have a one-woman show. I had written one before, and I decided I would never perform it in front of people because I just didn't want to do that. And so I decided, okay, after a while, I said, okay, this is a one-woman show. I'm gonna do the Hollywood Fringe. The venue that I ended up doing my show at was outside of the Fringe zone. So I chose to do my show at the venue that I really wanted, at the times I really wanted, instead of being an official part of the Fringe Festival. So that's how it really came to be. But this whole experience, as I mentioned, was very healing and expansive, and it felt kind of like something was birthed through me. And um it was interesting of not sitting down and having an outline. The feature film that I wrote with my friend Lena Yee, we sat down, we wrote an outline, and then we filled in the blanks from there. And that was an interesting process. I feel like everything we create has its own life and its own process, and things are a living organism. And I wrote this chunk of a thing, and a month and a half before the show was going up, we have a venue booked, I still was coming up with how it was going to end. And I felt like it really came together so organically. And when I would have the thought of, I don't know how it's going to end, I would switch my thought to the perfect ending is going to come through me. Um, I've mentioned before that I lead facilitated play, which is like improv-based games. And one thing that I point out to people is we have this experience of creativity coming to us and through us. And I read a quote recently that we all have a genius inside of us, and it's just our job to get out of our own way. And it really felt like that. And the show was something I felt like like I can own that I crushed it. It was awesome. And it felt like the most full expression of myself. And to be like, yeah, I nailed it. Like I didn't have any kind of in my headness afterwards, because I put it all out there. And getting the feedback that I got was really incredible as well, about how funny it was, but vulnerable and thought-provoking. I did character work. I'm an actress, I'm an improviser, I do sketch comedy. I did a stand-up set within the show. So it just like had all of these different things. And at the same time, it's the most vulnerable thing that I've ever done and created. And to be able to do a show where it's just you for 50 minutes, I have a feeling I'm going to write an extended version as well. I know that takes some chops, and having cultivated a craft over decades, it felt really, really good. And I hope that anybody that saw it that had something, a spark of an idea inside of them, and or curiosity about something that they might create, is inspired to sit down and put in some time and see what comes out of that. I'm also reminded that there are shows, Phoebe Waller-Bridges, Fleabag, which is a fantastic show that started as a one-woman show. And somebody else I know that's a director that has a movie that just came out, posted on Instagram recently that movie started as a one-woman show. So I am very curious about what's going to happen next. And I'm so grateful for everybody that came out to show their support. And I feel so loved and supported, and and that feels good. It feels good to feel good. I mean, what a simple concept, and yet it's like meditation, quieting your mind, such a simple concept, and yet the steady practice of that is where it's at. And those are stories that I got to rewrite in my head about being loved and supported, and really honoring myself and feeling like this is it, and going for it, like really going for it. That feels really good. And I have the quote by Marianne Williamson on my wall that I love so much, that says, it's the our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are adequate beyond measure. And the more we shine our light, the more we light the way for others. And I think about how inspired I am from other people, how they live their life and who they choose to be. And that creates a ripple effect. And what kind of world do we want to live in? Imagine living in a world. I love to imagine living in a world where everybody is so lit up by their own life. How different it would be, if we all honored our own unique individual genius. What a different world that would be in. So I'm switching a little bit, but it all flows together. My biggest meta intention for 2025 for this year was to fall ridiculously in love with myself and my life. Like self-love has been such a journey for me. And I feel like what's on the outside hasn't in the past always matched what was going on in my head. And so just feeling like, yeah, this was such an act of love and of self-love and self-worthiness. Like the worthiness thing is a big, big deal. You can have like huge dreams and yet if you don't fundamentally feel like you're worthy of having the things that you desire, it's not always easy. It makes it so much harder to call those things into your life or to experience them, or you can get them and not feel worthy and then not be able to keep them or not be able to really enjoy them. So it felt it really felt like being in love with myself and my life, doing this show, and I did come down kind of I crashed a little bit. It hasn't even been a week. And it was such a high. And now that that run is over, it's not over because it continues to live. And I feel like there's some reaching out to do um and looking for other opportunities of how this can live on, writing the extended version, also thinking about what I'm writing next. All of that stuff has been a journey. So this page is sharing my creative process, but also tidbits and inspiration and creative tips and so leaving with the creative tip of what if you sat down for 20 minutes every day and started working on something, whatever that is, the business that you've wanted to start, or painting if you're a painter, or picking up an instrument, or learning that language that you wanted to learn for so long, and just commit to 20 minutes a day. You never know what's going to come of it. And there's a saying that it's about who you become in the process. And you might fall a little bit more in love with yourself. You might fall a little bit more in love with your life. We are all creative beings. Life is a creative process. And I'm sending you so much love. And thank you for watching. If you watched this.